Hi there, I'm Martha Van Dam, and this is Living Beyond. Welcome. Today, I want to talk about a word that you've heard a whole lot, and when I say it, I think you're going to think I mean something different than what I actually mean. And the word is judgment. When I say that word, I'll bet you think that I'm going to talk about either judgment that we have toward ourselves, or probably more likely, you think I'm talking about judgment that we have toward other people. And that is something that we could talk about at some point. That's a very valid thing to talk about. But right now, I want to talk about how there's a type of judgment that I believe goes on all day, throughout our day, and that it adds to, combines and compiles and makes this sense of pressure that we feel all day, and we are completely unaware of it. I think it's a lot like an app that runs in the background. And you know how our phones can slow down or our computers can slow down because we've got apps or programs running and we don't realize how much energy they're sucking out. And I think this judgment, this continual judgment that happens, and please follow me to listen exactly how it is that this happens. So I'm not talking about, again, about judgment of people as much as I'm talking about judgment of events, circumstances, results, just the things that we see in life. And what we tend to do is a thing happens and we see it, our brain takes in the information, and it automatically takes that information and slides it into one of two categories, and that is good or bad. Very black and white, very binary, very separated, good or bad. It's as simple as this. Follow me on this. It's as simple as I go to pull out of the parking lot of my office here, and if there's a whole line of traffic that I have to wait on, yes, I'm going to clearly stop. But likely when I look, in the back of my brain, there's this little sense of judgment that happens. So if I see all those cars, my brain is going to register the cars and I'm going to stop. But there's also going to be this tiny little sense of, oh, a lot of cars, as though that's bad. The contrary is true as well. I might pull up and there's not a single car coming as far as the eye can see. And there's this tiny little judgment that goes, oh, good. Yay, I don't have to wait. That may sound small, but think about all of the events in your and my day. How many emails do you notice when you pull up your computer? How many phone calls do you get? How many just things happen? A person changes an appointment with you. A child has a meltdown. You don't have as much in your bank account as you thought that you did. Someone is angry with you. You have events all day long. And I want you to think a minute. Can you recognize what I'm talking about when I say there's this tiny little nanosecond that if we pay attention, we'll see it, this tiny little nanosecond where our brain goes, is that good or bad? And we get this, good, or bad, that we feel. Well, think about this. Let's see, if you're going to sleep 8 hours, over 16 hours or more, 16 to 20 hours of wakefulness in your day, if all through those hours, there's multiple times of, oh, good, oh, that's going on in your brain, especially those bad ones, they build up this sense of heavy, not good. Now there's more work to be done. This is bad. This is hard. It builds up this attitude, this environment of badness, of weight, of heaviness. The alternative and the opposite of that is learning to recognize that an awful lot of things they just don't even own a good or bad component. They simply exist as a fact. So when I pull up to the intersection and I look to my left because I want to turn right, so I look to my left, and I am in the United States, not in the UK for my UK friends, but I look to the left, and if I see a whole long string of cars, if I can help my brain to recognize it's not good or bad, it's just a number. Let's see, looks like about seven, it's a number. It's not good or bad, it just exists. And then it may feel like it's a small thing, but I pull out without that extra weight. If there's no cars and I would have had this automatic happy. If I can then still say to myself, it's not good or bad, it's just a number, that still takes the pressure off of me for there to find good. It just exists. Facts are facts. Facts do not have moral equivalence. Facts do not have good or bad attached to them. So I'm going to throw out some really some things that may be okay. So something as simple as you go to fix dinner tonight, you look in the refrigerator and there's no milk, and you needed milk for what you were going to make. Is that bad? No. It's a fact. Here stands a refrigerator and there is no milk inside it. That is a fact. Now what comes next is, and what is my choice going to be? Am I going to use something instead of the milk to replace? I now have some choices to make. I now have a decision that is in place to be made. Do I want to use something instead of the milk? Do I want to choose and make something different? Do I want to try to run to the store and get the milk, or ask someone in my family to do it? Do I want to go next door and see if I can borrow a cup or however much from a neighbor? What do I need to do? But we need to leave the good, the bad, in this case, the annoying, the bad, out of it. If we can learn to say, it's not good or bad, it's a fact. And I can deal with facts. I can find solutions, I can solve problems with facts. Let's dive a little bit deeper. These meanings that we put on things make the really difficult things in our life even harder. I've had a cancer diagnosis, so I know what I'm saying when I say this. And I wouldn't dare say to anyone, oh, it's just a fact when you get cancer. But I will say that all the beliefs, the judgments that we have that go along with it can make our experience a whole lot worse if we're not aware that that is getting poured onto, with our judgment, the experiences that we're facing. So you have a diagnosis, this person, you're telling someone they have a diagnosis of cancer, or you receive the diagnosis of cancer. If we immediately go to, and maybe I should say, give yourself some grace, because the immediate response you have for something that traumatic is going to be based in an awful lot of neural connection that you have no control over. You're going to feel threatened, and your brain is going to react in that threatened way. But if pretty quickly we can come to the understanding of, this is a fact, it's actually good that if we're talking good or bad, it's good for me to know the fact, because now I know what I'm dealing with. And I can choose how I'm going to move forward. And that moving forward, my choices of how I do it is the most important piece. But if we get caught up in feeling and staying in the bad, it's traumatic, this is bad, this is horrible, this is scary. If we keep feeding that, how exhausting that is. And it keeps us from being able to step out and move forward and make decisions on what to do with our newfound facts. Again, I'm not saying that a cancer diagnosis or anything big you find out about a betrayal in your world, any of those things are not bad. Of course, they're very awful things that happen. But we don't want to stay in the judgment feeling of the event. What we want to, as quickly as possible, be able to say, okay, it's happened. And now what am I going to do? What is my next step? How do I want to approach this? How can I be intentional about what I'm dealing with? Because if I'm not being intentional, the habits will take over. The habits are, oh, it's good or it's bad. And then if it's bad, pile on emotion, laced with an awful lot of fear. So all of this compounds, and it just gets heavier and heavier when there's the judgment and then staying in the judgment. We want to get out of that as quickly as possible. So back to, what is the best way out? The first thing is recognize. Recognize, recognize, recognize. How often are you doing it? As you go about your day-to-day, what I'm going to suggest you do is you write on your hand something that will help you to remember to watch. Write the word judgment. Write the word check. Watch the word grade, like you're grading things. Something that will make sense to you. And then as you write it on your hand, I'm writing it right here for me. You won't be able to see it because it's backwards with my camera. But as you go about your day, you're going to be reminded, because you're going to see it all the time. Your hand goes with you everywhere, right? So you're going to write it and you're going to see it. So you pull out in traffic, and if there's a whole lot of cars, and then with this written on your hand, it might help you to remember to watch yourself. Do I feel something about those numbers? Do I feel something that I missed that green light? Do I feel what is it that how am I responding? And what we're growing is this ability to be intentional about our thoughts and our reactions so that they're not just happening to us and we're not just at their mercy, but we're being intentional, and now we're plotting a course for the kind of life we want. So you pay attention today. I cannot tell you how much this has changed my life and how much I've been able to see a difference in my mindset by being tuned into, am I getting upset? Am I judging the things that I hear? Oh, a good one is the news. You hear something scary on the news. That's a great place where we can frequently go into, oh, all the emotions is bad. Now I've got emotion. Or we can say, well, that was an interesting thing for them to do. This is the fact. Now I know the fact, or some of the fact if I'm listening to the news. I know the fact, and I get to decide what I'm going to do with it, not stew in the emotion of it. So look for the judgment. Determine for yourself it's a fact. It's not good or bad. It just exists as a fact. And what am I going to do with it? And that puts you back in the driver's seat of being in control and empowered to make your decisions toward moving forward. I hope you have an amazing day, and I hope you're very present, and I hope you're paying lots of attention today to your responses about the things, the people, the events that come your way. I hope it's wonderful for you today, and I hope that you begin to see that an awful lot of what happens in our life is neither good nor bad. It just exists, and now we get to decide what we're going to do with it. Wonderful day to you. Thanks, my friends. Bye-bye.